Appreciate you tuning in once again. Hope you're having a day. We're going to be thinking about Moses and when he passes there at Pisgah. We're going to look at the verse in Deuteronomy chapter 34. Today's hymn, it's the hymn, My Latest Sun is Sinking Fast.
My latest sun is sinking fast, my race is nearly run. My strongest trials now are past, my triumph is begun. Oh, come, angel band, come and around me stand. Oh, bear me away on your snowy wings to my immortal home. Oh, bear me away on your snowy wings to my immortal home.
Different version, just as one hymnal uses the word eternal and the other immortal. Regardless, though, you think about Moses as his sun, so to speak, was sinking. The passage we're going to look at is in Deuteronomy 34, verse 1. Then Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, which is across from Jericho. And the Lord showed him all the land of Gilead as far as Dan, all Naphtali and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Judah as far as the western sea, south, plain of the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees as far as Zoar. Then the Lord said to him, This is the land of which I swore to give Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I've caused you to see it with your eyes, but you shall not cross over there. Move it up a little bit. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord, buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor, but no one knows his grave to this day. A little further in the account, Moses was 120. His eyes were not dim, nor his natural vigor diminished. The children of Israel wept for Moses for 30 days. Days of weeping and mourning for Moses ended. Now Joshua the son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands on him. So the children of Israel heeded him, did as the Lord had commanded Moses. But since then there has not risen in Israel a prophet like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, all the signs and the wonders which the Lord sent him to do in the land of Egypt. Oh, it's easy to read the account and frankly to feel sorry for Moses. Moses had struck the rock instead of speaking to it. And because of that, he was kept out of, the Lord would not let him go into the land. But the Lord had been with him. And so to just look at the journey, and the Lord had been with him. The Lord was with him when he was born. He did not perish. The Lord was with him when his mother put him in that little basket and floated him on the water. The Lord was with him as Moses chose to suffer affliction with the people of God. The Lord was with him as he fled from Pharaoh, from those who might come after him. The Lord was with him those 40 years. Land of Midian. The Lord was with him there on the mountain as the bush burned, but was not consumed. The Lord was with him as he went back to Egypt. And the Lord had been with him these 40 years in the wilderness. That's enough. My grace is sufficient for thee. Moses pleaded with the Lord to let him go into the promised land, but the Lord wouldn't do it. There were consequences for his actions. He had not hallowed the Lord in the eyes of Israel for a moment. There were consequences for that. But the Lord had been with him. and he got to see it. I think it's a wonderful display of God's grace and mercy that no, he would not let him go in, but he takes him up on top of that mountain, up to Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, across from Jericho, and the Lord shows him all the land of Gilead as far as Dan, all Naphtali. So that's Dan, that's probably the city of Dan. Perhaps that's the maybe. Maybe not though. But regardless, just because the city of Dan's not established till later on, but regardless, shows them all the land. And I bet it was a clear day so that Moses could see it all. Could look across the Jordan to see all that. And what a wonderful thing that is. That was. No, he couldn't go in, but before he passed, he at least got to see it. Let me ask you a question. As wonderful as that scene was, and that scene was wonderful, do you think it in any way compared to the scene that followed his? Or do you think the scene that followed was even more glorious? Don't mean to take anything away from seeing the promised land, but that's just a shadow. We seek the city to come, city whose builder is God. But he got to see the promised land. And you can tell, I was thinking about the fact that the Lord buried him. That there he was, he died in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And the Lord buried him in the valley, the land of Moab. Not on the mountain, but in a valley in the land of Moab. No one knows where it is to this day. By the way, that shows Moses is not writing this part. Someone else had to fill this in. But whoever it was who wrote it, Joshua or whomever, they did not know. They knew where Moses was on Mount Nebo, on Pisgah, but that's not where he was buried. Buried in a valley, the land of Moab. No one knows where his grave is to this day. But you can tell, as it speaks about Moses, verses 9 and 10, and while it talks about Joshua being full of the spirit of wisdom, but there wasn't anybody like Moses. There is not arisen in Israel a prophet like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. That what an honor it was for Moses. I don't know if that's the right word. That the Lord buried him. And I was thinking about funerals. And if you know your time is coming. And you choose who's going to do the service, who's going to speak at the church building or the funeral home, who's going to speak at the graveside. Who are the pallbearers going to be? You know, and they go around and they give the little button ears to the pallbearers and to those who are conducting the service. And then you bury your loved one. How wonderful it is that the Lord buried Moses. He did not leave that task to anyone else. There was no one like Moses that the Lord knew. He did not leave that task to Joshua. Pardon me. My latest son is sinking fast. But how wonderful it is. The Lord buried him. I don't know if it's the right way to put it, what an honor it is. I hope you don't mind me putting it that way. And I hope you don't mind the hymn speaking about the angel band. Think about Lazarus. I believe it speaks about the angels carrying him. And so Moses passes. The Lord buries him. Wonderful account. Looking out from Pisgah, seeing it all, passing from this life. And he had fought the good fight. He had finished the course. It's time to go on. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another portion of our daily praise.